Sadness isn't just an emotion we endure. In the new age, for many, it has become a pursuit, a means of self-revocation. If I can't find that love through happiness and through positivity, then I'll find that love through sadness. It is no longer just about feeling bad, but about feeling understood.
Honey, I'm 7 non-Fox years old now. My father died at 7.5. I don't want to live in a hole anymore.
Recent research into emotional regulation reveals while sadness is generally seen as a negative emotion, many people, especially those dealing with depression, actively seek it out. But why? What if it's not with sadness itself that's so compelling, but the validation that comes with it? A prime example of this self-revocation is the rise of what's called TikTok. On TikTok, this subculture of the platform is dedicated to sadness, where teenagers, and rarely young adults, post videos of themselves crying, sharing dark thoughts, or expressing feelings of abandonment. These videos often get millions of views, creating a cycle of validation and attention, sometimes not for good. There's a recognizable pattern in these videos. These creators often share their deepest vulnerabilities: heartbreak, neglect, abusive parents, substance issues, the list goes on. These videos can be seen as attempts to find comfort and understanding, not just from friends, but from a vast, anonymous community of strangers who might finally offer the validation they are seeking, the validation they have wanted for years and years, but not been able to grasp. However, this cycle of seeking self-verification often takes a darker turn. As validation becomes more tied to sadness, individuals may spiral into self-destructive behaviors like substance abuse, self-harm, radiation, or in the worst cases, suicide. The attention they receive for these acts is a form of validation, but is ultimately fleeting and often leads to further isolation. Many users on platforms like TikTok, particularly those in vulnerable spaces like TikTok, which glorifies drug use, often ecstasy, use their own online personas as a way to deal with their real-life struggles. It's a form of escapism, driven by the desire for validation through any means necessary. But when this validation doesn't lead to real, meaningful connections, it leaves them even more isolated and even more alone. At the heart of this cycle is a deep, unspoken desire to be seen. For many children and teenagers growing up without emotional support, whether from absent parents or neglect, they seek recognition and connection in the only place that feels available: the internet. When their cries for help go unnoticed, they are left feeling more abandoned, reinforcing the cycle. For some, this desire to be noticed reaches an extreme, the idea that at last their pain will be witnessed, even if it's not in a way that offers real support, becomes a powerful motivator. The notion that being surrounded by others, albeit virtually or in pain, can feel less lonely than being sad in silence. It's not just social media. The desire for validation and connection seeps into our media consumption too. Shows like BoJack Horseman, Shameless, Euphoria, and others present a world where, despite all the pain and dysfunction, people are seen, heard, and cared for, albeit in highly dramatic ways. These stories captivate us not just because they reflect the chaos of life, but because they show that even in the messy of situations, there's someone to care. Even in shows where the characters are flawed, struggling with addiction, or battling mental health, there's always someone there to talk to. These moments of connection are what people craving validation latch onto. They want to believe that someone, anyone, will understand them in their pain. And sometimes, that's more compelling than the idea of happiness, which often feels distant or unattainable. But the truth is, this cycle of validation through sadness isn't sustainable. It creates a loop where the need for attention grows stronger, while the real, meaningful connections remain out of reach. The key question emerges: would you rather be sad and alone, or sad and surrounded? For that many, especially those who would have faced emotional neglect or abandonment, the answer is clear. Any connection is better than none, but in the pursuit of validation, they often find themselves more isolated than ever. The pursuit of sadness is driven by the need for self-verification, reveals a deep human longing to be seen, to be understood, and to be validated. In our digital age, where everything is shown online, we must ask ourselves, what happens when the quest for validation takes precedence over our true connection? And can the cycle ever be broken? or are we all just trying to be seen in our sadness, hoping someone, somewhere will understand? So, as I end this first video essay, which is going to be like all over the place, so bear with me. I just want to say to anyone out there who might be reading this, watching this, anything, just know that you do not have to be sad, and however sad you have been, however self-destructive you have been, it's not the end. It's only the end when you aren't here anymore. If you are reading this and you are watching this, it's not too late. And it sounds like some cheesy therapist, oh, it's never too late, but it isn't. It is never too late. You can be happy. We do not have to be constantly sad. The desire for sadness is really just desire for happiness. And confidence and self-verification comes from happiness. We do not need to be sad to get this self-verification. In one study, participants with depression were compared to those without, and researchers examined their music choices to understand why people actively seek sadness. The results pointed to something unexpected. While sadness might seem like something many people want to avoid, in reality, it serves a different function. For many, sadness isn't just about experiencing pain. It's about finding pleasure in the feelings they get from self-verification. Self-verification as a concept is rooted in social psychology. It suggests that people are driven by the desire to be understood according to their own beliefs and feelings. In this case, sadness offers a way to confirm one's emotional experience. For people who are disconnected and misunderstood, sadness becomes a tool to say, this is who I am and I need to be seen.